We've been trekking through Jonah over the last few weeks, and it's my privilege on this last of the series to talk a little bit from Jonah chapter 4. The story seems to end fairly abruptly, doesn't it? And we want to just have a little look at some of the context of Jonah chapter 4 and what is it that God might be saying to us this morning. My question to us this morning is this: what is it that makes you angry? Those are going to be the focus for the next few moments, is to think a little bit about anger. We'll look at three questions. What is it that makes you angry? Where does your anger take you? And what is your anger teaching you? You see, anger is a natural human reaction. We all get angry at various moments in our lives about different things. I wonder this morning, what is it, as you think about it, that makes you angry? When did you last lose it? Maybe even on your way here this morning. Maybe there was a little conversation that took place in the car or as you walked. Maybe somebody cut you up as you were driving here and you gesticulated in a fairly open and clear, but not necessarily Christian manner. What makes you angry? Where does it take you? And what might God be teaching you through your anger? I'm going to show you in a moment something that made me angry, just for context's sake. In 2021, it was the Euros, the men's Euros, the football. And it's the first time that England got to a final of a major championship since 1966. I mean, it didn't play out quite as we'd hoped in the end. But what you're about to see is me in the semi-final, in the last dying seconds of the game that we were at the time winning, but it looked like we might lose. This is what happened.
Go on!
Sterling, Foden wants it.
There it is, get it to Jordan.
Taking no chances
In!
at all, England.
In!
Unbeknownst to me, my daughter was filming me at the time. And for those of you who need a translation to that, Jordo is Jordan Henderson, who is a very good footballer, plays for Liverpool and England. And it was I was basically shouting at the TV. I don't know whether any of you have those moments in life when you shout at inanimate objects. How many of you might shout at the television maybe, or in some other inanimate object? So lots of things can make us angry. Circumstances, people, inanimate objects that don't seem to work as we hoped can make us angry. Our anger tells us something about what's going on inside us. Unlike any other emotion, it's one of those things that if it turns inwards on yourself, it has a detrimental effect. What is it that makes you angry? Here we have in this story, Jonah chapter 4, this moment, as we've heard, where Jonah had been in Nineveh, had done what God called him to do eventually. And he was communicated about the city turning back, turning away from bad behavior patterns. And contrary to maybe what he thought, the whole city goes, yeah, okay, we're up for that. We recognize we've done wrong, and we are turning away from it. Jonah is upset because God seems to do what he said he would do. He forgave them. He enabled them to be set free. And in that moment, Jonah's heart is revealed. What was going on for Jonah? He suddenly becomes angry. God, you're being way too nice to them. You should have wiped them out, Lord. If it's going to be this way, just kill me. Jonah's anger bubbles to the surface. What is he angry about? What is it that makes you angry? You see, contrary to popular belief, what makes you angry may not be a bad thing. Anger is not a bad thing. In fact, the Bible describes anger as just present in life. The Bible says this: in your anger, don't sin. In other words, anger is not sin, but it can become sin. It can become a dangerous thing when it's thrust outwards to others or at others. It can become a dangerous thing more often than not when it goes inwards. The number of people that are angry at themselves, hurt in a variety of ways, and that anger turns inwards. You see, anger is a natural reaction when we're hurt to abuse that we may have suffered, to injustice in the world, to unfairness, to those things that have happened that God didn't intend, but the world just conspired against us in a moment. Anger is a natural reaction. And in it, God can do some amazing things. What is it this morning that makes you angry? Not all illustrations necessarily are football related, but for me, I've had a very good 2023 when it comes to football. I play on a Friday night with some of the men present, and I've only lost once in 2023. Let me just say that again. I've only just lost once in 2023. Thank you for the one person that celebrated that with me. 2022 was not so good. At the back end of 2022, somebody went in and tackled me without me seeing that they were coming. They took my legs out from underneath me, and let's just say as I fell to the ground, I did not bless them with words of light, hope, and encouragement. In fact, the words that I used were slightly shorter than that. I got angry in the moment. And when anger took over, I went for revenge. In the next moment, when a tackle could come in, I slid in, I bashed them from behind. I gave them what for, and I basically said to them, "You deserve it." Not my finest moment. In that moment, it reveals something of what's going on in your heart, what you're worried about, the anxieties that you carry and where they spill out. To cut a long story short, I did actually have a conversation with the person spread over many weeks to apologize and say my actions were just so disruptive, not helpful for them, not helpful for me, not helpful for the game. I apologized, and they're still playing. In fact, they were on the other team on Friday night, just gone. I mean, they did lose 7-3, but our anger sometimes spills out. Where it's uncontrolled sometimes. It finds its way out. It will always seek a purpose, your anger, either in hurting other people or in hurting yourself or in achieving something of God's intention. What is it that makes you angry? See, Jonah knew God's intention. He knew God's character. God is gracious and compassionate, a song that we've sung today, a song that lifts out of Psalm 103. God is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in love. Jonah knew that, and yet when it hit the ground running, he was angry. He knew in his own heart that something was not right. He knew that judgment should fall. And in that moment, he was tempted to think that he knew best. Wonder whether your anger ever leads you to a place where you think you know best. I'm angry about this. Even when that anger is justified, we think we know best. Where does your anger spill out? Who does it hurt? Who does it hit? Anger will always find a place and will always find a way. What is it this morning, question again, that makes you angry? Secondly, where does your anger take you? I love what the New American Standard Bible translation says about this one verse. Verse 4, it says, this is God speaking, do you have a good reason to be angry like this, Jonah? Do you have a good reason? And I love the thought that God asked the question, there is a good reason to be angry. You see, if you've been hurt in your life, it is natural to feel angry. If you've been affected by abuse or addiction, or somebody has hurt you in some way, it's natural to feel angry. We would all feel it. Do you have a good reason to be angry like this, Jonah? I love the little story in John chapter 2. You know, it's about Jesus turning the water into wine moment. And then right after that, it tells a story about how Jesus went into the temple courts. And when Jesus walks into the temple courts and sees all these tables and people bargaining and bartering and making money in the temple, it says that Jesus got a whole load of rope and turned them into a whip. Now, that doesn't happen overnight, does it? It doesn't happen instantly. It happens because you take time to do it. I like the thought that Jesus was just taking time to make this rope into a whip. And then Jesus turns over the tables. He throws people out. He uses the whip. Something about what was going on met Jesus in that place. And he responded. He responded. I don't think that Jesus would have done that, turned the tables over with a smile on his face and a joke ready to share. Let me tell you one about the tables being turned over. No, Jesus got angry at what was going on, the injustice. Where does your anger take you? It seems for Jesus that it took him to a place of righteousness, of holiness, of speaking out in terms of the temple, of saying, this is not great that this is being used for this. It shouldn't be like this. You see, your anger, where does it take you? If it takes you to a place of, it shouldn't be like this, that may be a good thing. That may be a good thing. When you look at poverty or injustice in the world, or unfairness, or the way that people are treated, it shouldn't be like this. Actually captures something of the heart of God. It shouldn't be like this. We sing a song, don't we? We sing it too easily. Break my heart for the things that break yours. Do you think God looks at situations in the world or unfairness and looks with absolute apathy? No. It breaks his heart and it causes us. Our hearts should be broken too. Where does your anger take you? You see, for Jonah, it led him to leave the city. In verse 5, Jonah went out and sat down at a place east of the city. Jonah leaves the city. Have you ever had those storming out moments where your anger leads you to storm out? I've been in a few meetings where I felt like it, and been in a few meetings where people have done it. Just stormed out. I'm going to leave. Repressed anger that finds its way out of the city. Where does your anger take you? Do you feel like storming out, leaving? I think maybe God just managed to boundary Jonah in the outskirts of the city and lead him back to a place of turning back to the Lord. Where does your anger take you? Anger can lead you to distance from God and from others. That's where our anger sometimes takes us. And it takes us there sometimes because it's internalized. As a culture, I think we find ourselves internalizing anger in the extreme. And then we see it often externalized in the extreme. We don't often see anger dealt with well. I was talking to somebody at the end of the 9 o'clock service this morning. And I was talking about the same stuff there. And they said in their family, they have what they call honest table time. And it meant that they sat around their table and they basically shared moments of when things had not gone well. Things that had made them angry. Honest table time. Where does your anger take you? Does it take you away, like it did for Jonah? Does it take you to a place where you sulk and you harbor your anger? You nurture it. You see, I think The reality is this. Psychologists will tell you this, and the Bible is pretty clear on it as well, that if you sulk, if you harbor your anger, it will eat you up from the inside out. It will lead to repression. It will lead to mental health declining if your anger is turned inwards on yourself. If you sulk, if you nurture it, then it will eat you up from the inside out. It will always do it. It's never neutral. In 1970, I got given a space hopper. Did anybody else have one of those? At least 5 of you. Some of you not admitting to it. Brilliant thing. Big plastic balloon that you sat on and you bounced around the place. It was just, I loved my space hopper. But here's the thing, it's not designed for a swimming pool. If you take a space hopper into a swimming pool and you try to sit on it, to hold it under the water, you can do it for a bit, but sooner or later, it will bubble up. It will always do it, and you can never win. I know, because I've tried. It will always win. And anger is the same. You can try and sit on it. You can try and keep it under wraps, but sooner or later, it will win. It will bubble out, and it will bubble up. If you sulk in your anger, you will be eaten up from the inside out. If you've been hurt by other people, if people have said things to you that have made you angry, that's natural. But if you hold on to it, if you harbor it, it will eat you up from the inside out. And how do we know it? Because you will know it. You will be sitting here, some of you this morning, thinking, that's me. I've been trying to sit on the space hopper. Just be careful how you go away from church and share that with people, okay? Don't maybe use those examples. I went to church, it's like I was sitting on a space hopper. Maybe God is speaking to you this morning. Where does your anger take you? Does it take you to leave the city? Does it take you to a place of sulking? And then finally, what is your anger teaching you? Self-justification is a tempting thing, isn't it? God said to Jonah for the second time after the plant died, and Tom gave us a beautiful illustration of that moment. Is it right for you to be angry about the plant? I mean, I wonder whether Jonah saw the ridiculousness of that question. Is it right for you to be angry about the plant, Jonah? Well, Jonah was like saying, it's not about the plant, Lord. It's just about the unfairness. It's about the forgiveness that flows when I thought it was going to be condemnation and judgment, hellfire and damnation, and yet there's grace abounding. Self-justification is a tempting thing. Here's the 2 things to bring us into land. What is anger teaching me? It's challenging me to help me reprioritize. Challenging circumstances can help us do that, can help us look at ourselves. I wonder today what you might need to reprioritize. I wonder what you might need to refocus on. Challenging circumstances can give us back our focus. Anger is never neutral. It's not always sinful. Your anger may lead to action. In your anger, Paul wrote to the Ephesians church, do not sin, but do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. In other words, if you get angry, do something about it. If you need to forgive someone, forgive them. If you need to speak to someone, speak to them. I would encourage you this morning, if you know that you're eaten up by anger that's turned inwards, if you find yourself getting angry with other people, talk to somebody else about it. Don't harbor it. Disperse it through conversation and prayer. You might talk to the Lord about it, but I would also suggest you talk to somebody else about it. Disperse it by talking. And recognize that maybe this morning your anger might be leading you somewhere that's healthy and helpful. People that have made a difference in the world have largely been moved by passion and maybe even anger. You think about the things that have changed in the world. Befriend other mission partners that spot an injustice and do something about it, your anger may lead you to a place of action. Might I say, if you're not angry about something on behalf of Jesus, maybe you're not following him closely enough. What is it that moves you in community that's unjust? What do you need to act upon that might make a difference? What projects can you get behind? What giving can you release? What can we do to turn our anger into a thing of blessing because things change? So, 3 questions this morning. What makes you angry? Secondly, where does your anger take you? And thirdly, what is your anger teaching you to reprioritize and to refocus on?